Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Teacher Affirmations. I'm your host, David Seal. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm simulating a Zoom meeting. So if you were having a Zoom meeting with me right now, this is what it would look like. I'm in my office and it's just, my face and whatnot. Zoom meetings have become so much a part of our profession. And I think of just in American society in general since the pandemic, that Zoom has become a verb. Yeah, I'm going to go Zoom later, and if you said that to someone in 2019, they'd think you were making a drug reference or something, but necessity breeds innovation. And during the pandemic, we had to find more efficient ways to communicate, knowing that we could not get together, in the same room together, but still needed to be able to talk face to face. And so Zoom just, I know there's several other different platforms that are just like Zoom. I'm just using that one as my example because that's the one we use in my school system, but those took off and it allowed us to teach students virtually. It allowed us to have parent meetings. It allowed us to have staff meetings. It allowed us to communicate with each other professionally in a way that allowed us to keep our jobs as normal as possible, and keep us from having to shut down entirely. But so don't get me wrong. I understand the importance of it. Here's the thing. Sometimes things outlive their usefulness. And I have found that one of the byproducts of the Zoom world in which we now live is that it somehow gives people the misapprehension that you're always accessible. And I'm not. And whether it's, it could be anyone in your professional life. It could be an administrator. It could be a supervisor. It could be a parent. But with Zoom, so it used to be that if you wanted to have a meeting, then you had to plan it in advance, make sure everybody was available, and usually find a place to have the meeting. And in the new Zoom world, you can just create a meeting in 5 minutes. Assuming, of course, the other people that you want in the meeting aren't busy or teaching or living their work life. And so it has become a little frustrating, at least on my end, because it makes me seem more accessible than I really am. And so I'm using that as sort of a not necessarily an analogy because it's for real, but to kind of lead into what I wanted to talk about in today's episode, and that is accessibility versus self-care. And I'm going to talk about self-care quite a bit with with Teacher Affirmations because I think it is so important. Here's the thing about educators. They are a lot like people in healthcare field. They're a lot like clergy, people who are in the nonprofit service organization industry, in that we have gone into this profession because we have a servant's heart and we want to serve. And that what comes with that, I have found, at least with most teachers, is an inability to take care of yourself for fear that you are failing those people whom you are serving. If I don't work on the weekend, then I'm not giving my kids my best. If I don't stay until 6 o'clock, then I'm not doing everything I can for my kids. If I don't answer that email immediately, then I'm not, being a responsive teacher to this parent or whatever. And if you don't do it, there's this feeling of guilt that settles in, of like, okay, I'm just not doing my job very well. I'm not doing what I should be doing. And that's not true. And I mean, I know in some cases that it's important to respond to something in a certain amount of time, or, sometimes we got to stay late, or we've got to grade some papers over the weekend, or especially when grades are due, we have a tendency to burn the midnight oil outside of school hours. So I know that that is a reality. what I want to make sure that you are doing is establishing some healthy boundaries. And that's today's self-care lesson. And it relates to the Zoom world in that if you make people think that you are accessible all the time, then you are accessible all the time. And I know sometimes you can't help it. You know, it's something very urgent. I know there's sometimes if my supervisor gets in touch and says, we're having a principals meeting in 30 minutes, there's a good chance I'm going to have to rearrange whatever it was that I was doing. This is my supervisor. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that if I get an email on Friday night at, 8 o'clock, that I need to respond to it. And you don't either. Okay. Here's the thing. If you respond to parent emails, dojos, remind app, whatever communication mode you use, when you respond to it after hours or during your time, whether it's your personal time, your family time, your relaxation time, your self-care time, then you make them feel like you are always accessible. And then when you do take time for yourself and you don't answer immediately, they get a little put out. Establish healthy boundaries when it comes to communication. Okay. Just because technology allows us to be more accessible doesn't mean that we're on call 24/7. Okay. And that's something that I've done with my staff is that they know that after 5 o'clock on weekdays and during all time on weekends, unless it is a serious emergency involving them not coming to work the next day, then they are not to, connect with me directly. I mean, they can send me an email if they want, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to respond to it immediately. And they can expect the same from me. Okay. If I have a question about some meeting that I'm supposed to have with a parent and a teacher first thing in the morning, if it's 7 o'clock on Tuesday night and the meeting's on Wednesday, well, I'm going to need to wait until Wednesday morning to communicate with that teacher, or maybe send an email and the teacher can respond to it when she feels like it. But I'm not going to text or call that teacher and say, hey, listen, tell me again what the deal is with this meeting. I've got several tomorrow and I'm kind of fuzzy. Can you? That's her time with her family, her children, her spouse, her parents, or maybe she's at the gym, or maybe she's doing whatever she wants because she's not on the clock. And I have to respect that. They respect that with me. And it allows us to establish those healthy boundaries. So make sure you're doing that with parents. That doesn't mean that what they have to say is not important, but they need to understand that while technology has made us all more accessible, that does not mean that we are at everybody's beck and call all the time. Okay. And that's just some self-care. When you're able to unplug like that, and you're able to say to yourself, okay, it's, this time on a Wednesday evening or whatever, I'm not working right now, then it allows you to refresh. And it allows you to recharge and do those things that are important to you as a person, not to you as a professional, not to you as a teacher or a servant, but to you as a person. And remember this, if you're starting to feel that guilt of, well, I'm not giving everything I can. If you don't take care of yourself, you'll never be able to give everything that you can. Okay. So if that voice of guilt starts to creep in when you're not working until 8 o'clock or going into school on Sunday afternoon or whatever, say to yourself, but if I don't take care of myself, then am I really giving the kids my best anyway? If you're exhausted, if you're spread too thin, if you are burning out, then you're not able to be there for your kids. So you got to take care of yourself. Okay. And put that with the same priority as taking care of the things with your job, more so. Okay. All right. So just the first in a series of things having to do with teacher self-care. And this is about important boundaries. Okay. So I'm glad you enjoyed this Zoom. because I don't think you get near enough of them. Um, that's a really terrible joke, but it's true. I know sometimes we feel overwhelmed with it, but I hope that you take this stuff to heart, because you are important and you have the world's most important job, and we need you. So until next time, I'm David Seal. Thanks for watching Teacher Affirmations.